The St Lawrence River had defeated Jacques Cartier and countless other navigators for centuries. Now, from 1954 to 1959, the challenges would be endless. Politics, geography, scheduling, weather, almost insurmountable. But the 1950s generation, determined and uncompromising, believed anything was possible.
Don't forget, we just come through World War II when things were, perhaps the impossible were done. And many of those people that worked there were veterans. It was the era where you did things and said, we'll get it done, period.
Seaway plans and treaties with the United States had crashed and burned so many times that by 1954, Canada was ready to go it alone and build an all-Canadian seaway.
The country had undergone a tremendous change in attitude, and we felt powerful, we felt rich. It was the era of the large project, the multi-super development types of project, whether it was the Trans-Canada Highway or the Trans-Canada Pipeline or the Seaway.
It was going to be the mightiest, most ambitious construction show on earth. The city of Cornwall, at a key point on the river between Kingston and Montreal, was front row center. With big-time dreams of growth and prosperity, Cornwall was dubbed the Seaway City. Its Member of Parliament was the man they called Mr. Seaway, Canada's Transport Minister, the Honourable Lionel Chevrier.
I would say that since the day he was born, he had the river next to his home.
Historian Bernard Chevrier, son of the Seaway builder.
Father would spend some time in his father's general store and listen to stories of salesmen that would come around. He always said that if you do not have a deep-sea waterway, the Americans will develop through the Erie Canal in the United States a way for the export of mid-western United States produces to New York City and eventually to Europe.
Chevrier was relentless. In more than 300 speeches, he hammered the same message.
The Seaway will bring benefits from coast to coast. The benefits flowing from the improved transportation facilities and the power development are staggering.
It worked. At the 11th hour, with construction all set to go, the U.S. announced it was in. They'd kick in $134 million. Canada would pick up nearly triple that amount, an astounding $330 million.
The announcement came through and people had, spontaneous street dances and spontaneous speeches from dignitaries, and it was just, everybody thought this was happy days are here again, it really was, and everybody was all excited, and it really was the height.
Half a century later, the Seaway is an express lane for cargo. More than 4,000 shipments a year pass through the system. The Gordon Sea Leach is typical, running east, downbound, as they say on the Great Lakes, delivering grain from the prairies to Quebec.
From Thunder Bay down to the lower St Lawrence, it takes roughly about 7 days.
She'll return from Quebec, upbound, loaded with iron ore for the steel mills of Hamilton.
Very good, sir, thanks.
"8 a.m., leaving Lake Ontario and clearing the first lock. The ship starts into the St. Lawrence.
This is what we call it, the Lake Ontario, Montreal section of the Seaway. normally 24 hours from the time we came in at Tibbs this morning till we get to Montreal, till we clear St Lambert's Lock.
The ship's officers check speed and course and watch the charts like hawks.
Come to starboard down there, sir.
Favoring the starboard side of it, yeah.
You got a bit of a current around here, so you got to be careful. Make sure that she's kept in the center all the time.
This is the tricky part. 300 kilometers of river from Lake Ontario to Montreal. Before the Seaway, they called it the bottleneck. 200,000 cubic feet of water per second, moving from Lake Ontario to the Atlantic Ocean. Water too fast, too shallow, too full of rapids and shoals. A navigation nightmare. Just waiting for the dynamite that would blow the river into modern times.
They strike without warning, burn villages to the ground, and slaughter armies twice their size. The barbarians are coming. Vikings, Huns, Goths, and Mongols. Nomad warriors who enslaved entire civilizations. Barbarians premieres January 19th, followed by Turning Points on History Television.
Sometime between Friday's late night dip and dinner on Sunday, the moment may be right, and you can be ready to respond to your partner, even if you suffer from erectile dysfunction. A variety of treatments are available, so ask your doctor which treatment option is appropriate for you. When the moment is right, you can be ready.
You know the way dishcloths get, dirty, smelly, full of bacteria. But not if you use the Natura cloth, available only at Home Hardware or Home Building Center. The Natura cloth comes clean and germ-free simply by rinsing. And now there's all-natural Natura cleaner with genuine tea tree oil for outstanding cleaning action with a natural lemon scent. It cleans just about anything safely and effectively. New Natura all-purpose cleaner and the amazing Natura cloth. Only at Home Hardware. Help is close to home.
Scent is the strongest sense tied to memory. How will you be remembered? Red Zone Invisible Solid is the longest lasting invisible solid from Old Spice. So you smell great all day and all night. Red Zone Invisible Solid antiperspirant 3 cents. Stay in the zone.
Research shows that cold sufferers who take NyQuil wake up feeling better, ready to face the day. All minus 20 degrees of it. NyQuil, the relief you need to sleep and feel better medicine.
Wow, new cherry Pepto. I love cherries.
Now there's a Pepto flavor everyone will love, and that's reason to dance. Look for it today.
Yo, Cam.
The all-new Jeep Grand Cherokee, with an interior that's quieter than a Jaguar S-Type 3.0. It's worth a look. The off-road legend continues on-road.
November 1954, the South Shore, opposite Montreal. The first bundle of dynamite blasts away several tons of rock to get things started. John Adams, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
The one thing that stands out in my memory and will always be there is the construction activity that took place in the international section of the St. Lawrence Seaway. That is from St. Regis, Quebec, on up to Lake Ontario. You look over at the horizon, you see cranes poking their head above the land. You see the Euclids, bulldozers, earth movers. You could drive on a river road and always witness some construction activity related to the seaway and power facilities.
The biggest problem most contractors had, and the authority, was to keep on schedule. This schedule had to be maintained, so there's a tremendous amount of work being done.
The logistics alone are mind-boggling.
You see the barrels and teeth just on standby.
The dredgers have to dig a shipping channel 8 meters deep and 300 kilometers long. Colin Fairn is one of the young engineers in charge.
It's quite simple. You have high ground underwater, and it has to be removed in order for ships to pass over. Otherwise, the ships would go aground. It's basically underwater excavation.
The excavated material is loaded onto barges, then disposed of in deep water away from the shipping channel. In one area alone, a part of the river between Montreal and Cornwall, enough rock, sand, silt, and clay is removed to completely cover Prince Edward Island. Every available machine is pressed into action in the dredger attack against the river bottom.
I can remember wishing we had more dredges, and there just wasn't any available, so we had to work winters and in conditions that were not adaptable. They were costly, but it had to get done.
Dredgers, dump scows, tugs, and service vessels. But it's not enough. To the rescue, all the way from Panama, comes the Paraiso, the mother of all dredgers.
Now, the Paraiso had a 15 cubic yard bucket on it. I mean, that bucket of that size is large enough for me to drive my SUV in and get out and still have room.
Marine clay, of a kind never before encountered, is a slippery goo that sticks to boots, clogs machines, and goes rock hard when it dries. Even worse is the real rock, a thick surface crust sculpted by glaciers 10,000 years ago, what geologists call overburden.
This overburden is known as glacial till, and it's very, very dense. It's full of lenses of clays, sands, silts, but most importantly, gravel. And it is cemented together. It's, let's call it, nature's way of making concrete.
To give you an idea of how dense it was and how hard it was, good concrete weighs 150 pounds per cubic foot. Glacial till, as an average, weighs about 165 pounds per cubic foot.
We had large electric shovels, and these shovels were very powerful, and they still could not dig this material with any efficiency at all.
The rock ground down shovel teeth, bulldozer blades that would last a year in normal conditions, wore out in days or hours. Rock excavation at Beauharnois near Montreal is the toughest. Crews here face deep canyons of sandstone to drill and blast. 3 million cubic meters. But the best drills barely do a meter a day. Whole fleets of drills are brought in to keep on schedule, but it's close to impossible. Compare it to the Welland Canal, where 8 lift locks were built to get ships from Lake Erie to Lake Ontario, around Niagara Falls. 20 years to complete. The Seaway crews have less than 5.
The project really was around the clock, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and weather permitting in the wintertime, 365 days out of the year.
We have better equipment today than we had 50 years ago. So there was more physical work, there was more labor intensive in those days.
Les Cruikshank, 23 years old, gets himself started with one second-hand piece of equipment and builds a family dynasty.
You worked hard then, and there's no coffee break. You went to work when you went to work, and you pretty well stayed out until you were finished.
Hundreds of geologists, engineers, scientists work on scale models to capture complex data on river levels and flow velocities. With millions living near the work zone, the smallest miscalculation could spell disaster. This was high-stakes science. Lives were on the line.
Up on the knuckle, close to a foot forward. Zigzag. Up on the knuckle, almost a foot forward.
Depth of water here, we got roughly around 14, 15 meters. That's roughly around 8-meter draft. So we got about roughly around 6 meters under the keel.
Lots of water, and a wide berth around the Seaway's power dam and hydro station at Cornwall. A joint Canadian-American project, the station stretches over 1 kilometer across the river. 32 generators, 16 on the Canadian side and 16 on the American. Power generation is a major part of the Seaway plans. The industrial Northeast is ravenous for cheap, bountiful electricity. To get maximum electrical power, engineers dam the river. It's the only way to create enough water at just the right elevation to spin the massive generator turbines. For the people of Cornwall, construction of the power station is happening right outside their front doors.
It was quite a sight because you'd drive up to this cliff and you could see the rapids way below you, and they had constructed this pulley that went across the river that dropped rocks in the center, and they kept dropping rocks 24 hours a day.
Lionel Chevrier had promised good times for his hometown, and they'd arrived. Seaway crews were making $2 an hour and spreading their wealth around Cornwall.
They had money to spend, and in those days, of course, a pair of shoes was inexpensive. It took a lot of selling to add up to what we sell today. A pair of hush puppies was $6.95. It's $110 today. But there was an increase in business, and we all felt that this was going to carry on for a while.
Chevrier was as passionate about Cornwall as he was about the Seaway. Come election time, that passion pulled in a young shoe salesman, George Astley.
There's a Rockport that you can really wear. They came to me, my shoe store was next to their campaign office, and they said, "We want you to work for us." And I said, "Gee, this is great. I was 21. What do you want me to do?" I thought this was great, getting into politics. They said, "We want you to come into the committee room next door, sweep the floor, put out the garbage, and make the coffee." Since then, it's progressed a little.
From those glamorous beginnings, Astley became a lifelong booster of the Seaway and of the old-style politician with river water in his veins.
Lionel Chevrier was very dedicated, unbelievable gentleman, very old-fashioned type of gentleman. I know that he would walk every Saturday when he was here, he'd walk up and down Pitt Street, always wore a hat, because he would always want to tip his hat to the ladies.
Chevrier looks after the politics, and the builders go into high gear on the power station. The big challenge is draining the river to make a dry work site. It takes ingenuity, but the answer? Temporary coffer dams. But not your everyday garden variety coffer dams. These would be the largest the world had ever seen.
A coffer dam can be made of either a compacted earth fill, which really is referred to as a dike, but generally speaking, a coffer dam is made up of steel sheet piling, which is driven in a circle, and the diameter is determined by the forces that are acting on it.
Each cell is 20 meters in diameter and sits on the river bottom.
Once the structure itself, the cells and the diaphragms are completed, say from a shoreline to the opposite shoreline, backfilled to the prescribed grade, then the water can be pumped out, because the coffer dam then acts as a dike to keep the water out of your dry area to permit construction.
2.5 billion liters of water are drained between the coffer dams. Work on the power station can now go 24 hours a day, fed with steel and gravel for concrete on an awesome scale. The Seaway was getting international play as the biggest construction story in the world. The Cornwall stretch of the river was drawing in 1 million tourists and dignitaries, all eager for a preview, a little magic, Seaway style.
January 24th, nominated for an Academy Award. Kurt Gerhard's final film was a document promoting life at Theresienstadt, the city Hitler built for the Jews. Alive with culture. A grand hoax. Gerhard hoped that this one project would help him survive. It did not. Prisoner of Paradise, January 24th, on History Television.
Scent is the strongest sense tied to memory. How will you be remembered? Introducing Red Zone Body Spray and 4 great scents. Spice things up.
We're daring mop and bucket users to tackle tough cleaning jobs using only the Swiffer Wet Jet. Check it out. Tracked in greasy garage dirt with a fresh scoopy topping of mud. Swiffer Wet Jet's powerful cleaning solution breaks up and surrounds dirt, while its triple-layer cleaning pad pulls up the dirt and locks it away forever. Plus, the exclusive scrubbing head is great for ground-in grime. Dare you to give it back? Not a chance. Stop cleaning, get Swiffer.
If you think all batteries are the same, consider this. When the Rocky Mountain Rescue Group needs light to save lives, they trust Duracell. Out there or right here at home. Duracell, trusted everywhere.
The all-new Jeep Grand Cherokee. With Quadra-Drive 2, our most advanced four-wheel drive system ever, a 5.7-liter Hemi V8, and our new electronic stability program. The off-road legend continues on-road.
For people with diabetes, the advanced technology of the Essentia Contour offers speed and accuracy. It requires only a small blood sample, and with this meter, you'll never code again. Essentia Contour. We believe it's the best ever made.
Hello, I'm Lloyd Robertson, inviting you to join me for War Stories,
Thursday. The Red Army launches a counteroffensive against Hitler's army at Stalingrad.
Life had no value whatsoever at the front. Today, you're lying next to your friend, and tomorrow you have to bury him.
The second of 3 parts on World War II's bloodiest battle. That's Stalingrad, Thursday on War Stories.
The locks are the superstars of the system, the big tourist draw. A ship passing through the lock is a stunning 7-minute performance that defies the eyes. This 27-ton ship, packed with another 25 tons of cargo, is raised up like a toy. "3 p.m. on schedule. Weather fair. The Gordon C. Leach makes a cautious approach to the American locks.
Okay. Yeah, okay, let's just keep her sneaking out. You're doing good. Doing the locks, that's the most challenging. Especially if you're doing the locks, what we call on the fly, where we're not going to the wall, we're just going straight into the lock. And that's a little challenging because, again, you're dealing with the wind, you're watching the wind very closely.
Yeah, Dean, if you're ready, go ahead and open up. When the vessel gets close enough to lock, everything's opened up for them. We give them the green light.
Lockmaster, ready to operate?
Okay then, Dave, in that case, you can close the upper end.
Roger.
Our men are out to watch the vessel when it touches the end of the wall. And from there in, we keep an eye on it in case there's any damage or anything.
Well, it's a long time, Art, since I made that wall. Take of a long time. Okay, Art, go the other way, Art.
5 feet.
You got it, buddy. You got it. You got it. You got it.
Now closing.
Once you get her inside the chamber, she displaces so much water that you really got to give her a little, what we call a kick. Give her a little more exhilaration, a little more power.
The gates look impregnable, but they're not. The ship arrestor, with 8 heavy steel cables, is the emergency backup to slow the ship's advance.
The metal part on top here will break away, and the cables down below here will actually catch the ship in a slingshot effect.
Then the rush. Water surges out of the lock chamber at 250,000 liters per second. No pumps, just gravity, to move 85 million liters in or out in less than 10 minutes.
Clear to Naco, 6 feet.
That's good, Jerry, thanks.
Before the Seaway, 21 small locks lifted ships between Montreal and Lake Ontario. At each lock, ships lined up and waited. It was a bottleneck. The solution, Reduce the 21 locks to 7 and make them bigger, much bigger. The new lock walls were monoliths, block upon block of solid concrete.
We analyzed the stability of these walls to remain perfectly erect and under various type of loadings, such as backfill loading, the groundwater, the hydrostatic loading, and including seismic loading, earthquake forces.
Solid, strong, but it's slow construction. To stay on track, work continues through winter.
I remember working at the eastern end of the Iroquois Lock when the temperatures were down at, in Fahrenheit, -20, -30. And of course, the ice was really thick.
Contractors, under duress, develop new techniques to pour concrete in conditions of extreme cold. Methods still used today. Year-round, quarries feed mountains of gravel, the key ingredient in making concrete, to the construction sites.
We're west of Iroquois, about 2 kilometers, and a quarry that was used for the Seaway. It was opened for the dam and the lock, which is just over the hill there, about a quarter of a mile. It went on for 3-4 years, and they were crushing here night and day. They crushed double shift and hauled it out here continually. But when they were finished, it was a very large hole. You know, we're talking hundreds of thousands of tons, probably maybe a couple of million in the end.
The concrete is poured into massive structures, new locks big enough to easily hold 2,700 SUVs. But today's Great Lakers and ocean-going ships are bigger too. They fit the locks like fingers in a glove, with just centimeters to spare. It's hair-raisingly tight, and the situation is getting worse.
We're replacing the upper hinge of the lock gate, which had to be replaced because of problems that we've had with our concrete, which is suffering from alkali aggregate reaction.
Alkali aggregate reaction means that after nearly 6 decades, the water and concrete aren't getting along. The lock walls are leaning inwards.
We have 2 problems that happen here at such a lock, where the walls move in towards the center of the lock, diminishing the usable width of our locks for the ship passing. The biggest ships that come through our locks are 78 feet wide, and theoretically the width of our locks is 80 feet wide, but we've lost a few inches with this alkali aggregate reaction, from somewhere around 4 to 6 inches in width.
There's no easy fix, just constant repair and maintenance. Late 1958, the locks are finished. But bridge work, including raising Montreal's Jacques-Cartier Bridge, is still underway. Without interrupting heavy traffic to and from the city, 30 separate jacks raise the bridge 24 meters to allow ships to pass under. The most complex engineering job of its kind in the world. It takes 16 months and goes off without a hitch. In Cornwall, the first section of the International Seaway Bridge opens to traffic. And the stage is set for the most spectacular single event of the entire Seaway construction.
They strike without warning, burn villages to the ground, and slaughter armies twice their size. The barbarians are coming. Vikings, Huns, Goths, and Mongols. Nomad warriors who enslaved entire civilizations. Barbarians, premieres January 19th, followed by Turning Points on History Television.
Thank you for calling Altamira. This is Eric. How can I help you?
Hi, is there anyone there who can help me sort through my RSP options?
Sure. I'm an experienced advisor myself. What are you thinking about?
We'd like our investments to grow, but we don't want a lot of risk.
No worries. We've got a full range of investment solutions. We can find the right balance for you.
Sounds good. How do I get more info?
Well, I can mail it, email it, or you can go to altamira.com.
Perfect. I'm there right now.
Great. How about we go through it together?
I wear black a lot, and I want a dandruff shampoo with a conditioner for my hair and scalp, so I switched to Selsun Blue 2-in-1. Proven strength to relieve flakes and itching, with added moisturizers and conditioners for healthier looking hair and scalp. Never wear black without the blue. Selsun Blue.
If you think all batteries are the same, consider this. When monitoring a patient after open heart surgery, the brand of battery hospitals trust most is Duracell. Duracell, trusted everywhere.
In your lifetime, the only polar bear a child ever sees could be in pictures. Global climate change threatens their very survival. But you can help ensure this doesn't happen by adopting a polar bear to support World Wildlife Fund Canada. For just $40, you'll receive a polar bear adoption kit, a personalized certificate, and cuddly toy. To adopt a polar bear through WWF, please call 1-866-TO-SAVE-ME or visit wwf.ca.
For people with diabetes, the advanced technology of the Essentia Contour offers speed and accuracy. It requires only a small blood sample, and with this meter, you'll never code again. Essentia Contour. We believe it's the best ever made.
Sometime between Friday's late-night dip and dinner on Sunday, the moment may be right, and you can be ready to respond to your partner, even if you suffer from erectile dysfunction. A variety of treatments are available, so ask your doctor which treatment option is appropriate for you. When the moment is right, you can be ready.
Roadshow Physics.
Oh my goodness. Yippee! That's very nice. That's great.
For every auction,
Wow. Wow. Wow.
there is an equal reaction.
Chairs like this bring somewhere between $60,000 and $70,000 at auction.
Oh my. Oh my word. Oh my God.
This is Antiques Roadshow.
Tomorrow at 8, following Great Train Stories and JAG on History Television.
With the building of the Seaway, the river was tamed and Canada stood taller as a nation. But progress cast a shadow. For hundreds of years, the St. Lawrence River had safely sheltered small towns and farms, fishermen, and local industry. As the Seaway took shape and shorelines moved, some communities lost ground. Others would disappear altogether. They'd known this day was coming. Behind temporary dams, the power project had held back the river from Cornwall to Iroquois. It was July 1st, 1958, Inundation Day, and 30 tons of dynamite was set to blow the dams.
Everybody flocked out to where the dam site is now because It was early in the morning, I think it was 8 a.m. It was pouring rain, unbelievable mud.
10,000 people lined the shore to witness the mass flooding. As the huge cofferdams give way, Lake St. Lawrence is born.
My mom always tells me about when they flooded the Seaway. She remembers going with her brothers and sisters down to the edge, and everybody expected this big, huge bang and this big, huge flood of water when they started. And of course, you know, it was a trickle and it took days. And my mom remembered her telling me she'd go down and put a twig or something on the edge of the water, and then, okay, well, this is where we think it's going to be tomorrow. And then they'd watch the water come up. They'd go every day and just sort of watch the water come up.
For 3 days and nights, the waters did rise. And for the first time in living memory, there were no ships on the river. Just engineers watching and waiting.
The level of the rising Lake St. Lawrence was closely monitored to ensure that the dikes were stable. They weren't being affected by the rising waters. And it was really a treat and somewhat astounding to see the level of Lake St. Lawrence rise so quickly during that short 3-day span.
As promised, millions would benefit from the Seaway. But along the river, embracing the future meant turning away from the past, from village life. The flooding submersed more than 20,000 acres of land and half a dozen communities dating back to the United Empire Loyalists.
We want people to remember 6,500 people were affected with the St. Lawrence Seaway. We don't want these villages to disappear from people's memories.
Between 1954 and 1958, hydro authorities struck deals. Some homes would be demolished, others loaded on giant movers for the slow trip up the highway to the new towns of Ingleside and Long Sault. Jane Craig was a teenager growing up in Moulinette, population 400.
I remember the first house being moved down the Highway 2. I was staying at a neighbor's house, and as children, we were just so excited about it. And I went home and my mother said, if you find this exciting, come with me. And in the back of our residence, they had just cut down all the trees. And my dad was upset. He was weepy. And I thought, I don't think I like what's going to be happening here. That was the first indication of what was coming ahead. I wasn't going to like it all.
The impact along the Seaway's route was enormous. Power lines, telephone poles, even train tracks were moved out of the river's path. Farmers gave up their land, either sold out or took new acreage. But it's one thing to move the living, quite another to shift the dearly departed. 18 cemeteries lay in the flooded areas. One, just west of Morrisburg, survived, but it took some engineering.
The gravestones are there, but there's probably 10 meters of water over the original cemetery. What they did a complete survey of this cemetery, located exactly all the graves and the stones, then took the gravestones away, filled it in, leveled it up, and placed the gravestones in the exact position they were prior to flooding. So the cemetery looks exactly the same as it did 100 years ago. It's quite incredible, really.
In the deserted buildings of one village, Altsville, scientists seized the chance to study fire. Instruments in place, the deserted buildings were set ablaze. The lessons of Altsville continue to reduce the annual death toll from fire. Buildings, artifacts, preserved moments of village life have been restored in the Lost Villages Museum. Like Ziny Hill's barber shop from Moulinette, next door to the saloon owned by Jane Craig's father.
The story goes that Hydro and bellmen would be into my dad's hotel having drinks on Saturday night, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, it's time for a shave and a haircut. I have church tomorrow. So they arrive at Ziny's for their haircut. Now, Ziny was quite a guy in himself. He played a mouth organ and he was very musical. He sang in the church choir. So lots and lots of those nights you'd hear music going on in the, in the barber shop.
Lionel Chevrier's dream was almost complete, and the Seaway was ready for the big ships.
Next hour, there were barbers, cobblers, and landlords. Ordinary enough, except they were also hangmen for the British prison system. Executioners begins next hour on History Television.
Okay, so the world won't notice when you make healthy choices, but you will. Baicel takes your health to heart.
Yo, Cam.
The all-new Jeep Grand Cherokee, with an interior that's quieter than a Jaguar S-Type 3.0. It's worth a look. The off-road legend continues on-road.
"31 Days of Great TV is Wired this weekend. Hold on for the adrenaline rush. Preview over 40 channels that are fast and loud and totally outrageous, with edgy, action-packed movies and heart-pounding thrillers. This weekend on Showcase Action, check out all the hottest action flicks starting Saturday at noon. The Adrenaline Weekend, just part of 31 Days of Great TV.
Do you ever go skinny dipping?
No.
Do you ever date younger men?
No.
Do you ever lie about your age?
No, I'm only 28.
Fool even your toughest critics. Olay Total Effect 7X has the power to fight 7 signs of aging. It also moisturizes better than these major department store brands. 7X. Fight signs of aging while you cleanse with Total Effects wet cloths.
A site of sacrifice, a site of mystery, a site of rebellion. But before you visit these historic sites, visit this one, historytravel.ca. History Television and Visa proudly present your ultimate one-stop travel website. Book historically themed tours from around the world and live the history. Book your trip using your Visa card to take advantage of exclusive Visa tours and discounts. Historytravel.ca. Adventure is within sight. Book online today. Presented by Visa. All you need for travel. Weeknights on History Television. The Judge Advocate General.
Very nice.
Reporting for duty.
The officer on the tape.
Your table is missing a leg.
Attention on that. Thorough investigation. 3 will make a perfect team.
Batman 1 declaring an emergency. Power!
David James Elliott.
You're dreaming.
Catherine Bell.
I can win.
Jag. Tomorrow at 7 on History Television.
Near Montreal, ship traffic on the Seaway is picking up. A good test for what the captain calls his Cadillac of a ship.
This is our controls for the engines back aft, what they call bridge control. And that's like the gas pedal, okay? So when you see me moving the stick, like I either put that on, if I'm going forward, I put giving it more juice, per se, more power. If I'm taking it off, I'm relaxing it a bit, taking it off, because I got this ship coming there and I don't want to go by them too fast. I'll just drag them with me, like, you know. Very good, Sorrow, thanks.
Seaway ships draw sailors from every part of Canada and all seagoing nations of the world. Their seasons measured by the channel markers of the Great Waterway.
I'm from a little town outside of Bonavista, in Bonavista Bay, Newfoundland. And many moons ago that I came away from that little town. But I've been knocking around ever since I've been 17 years old.
Stories of the river, the Seaway, and the town of Cornwall are housed in this modest stone building.
The Seaway was the big story at the time, and as you see throughout the room, we've got a few artifacts that sort of represent that. We've got a drinking glass from the royal visit, June 1959. The Queen herself, Queen Elizabeth II, came down, and this just represents June 1959 with her visit.
The Seaway opened with great ceremony on June 26, 1959, and was hailed as a triumph.
Men have dreamed and worked for 2.5 centuries to make this river navigable, and now, at last, it is a reality.
When the Britannica sailed through the Seaway to Toronto, Colin Fairn was among those ready to take a bow.
We're standing on Pier 27, and as I recall, it looks almost the same as it did almost 50 years ago, except there was a large viewing stand, and the Queen landed here off our royal yacht and had the opening ceremonies. And I think at that time probably that said, well, gee whiz, you know, this is pretty special.
The St Lawrence Seaway and Power Project was a mammoth achievement. Through ingenuity and perseverance, Canada guaranteed herself a place at the forefront of modern trading nations.
I think today probably it's sort of taken for granted, and it just is there, and it's more or less always been there. Well, it really hasn't always been there. And probably they do appreciate it, but they don't really understand what it did to the country. It opened it up.
This engineering marvel was the engine of change that transformed the country. Spin-off commerce from the Seaway still generates 1/3 of our gross national product. The Honorable Lionel Chevrier resigned as the first president of the Seaway in 1957. A man of action, he said building the canal was fun, but he didn't want to stick around to collect toll dues. The Cornwall boom was over. With Seaway construction at an end, the city's attention shifted to the north end, away from the river. The new Trans-Canada Highway was opening. Trucks rumbled by day and night, and the motels and fast food outlets provided jobs. Chevrier's last official function in 1984 was opening the federal building in Cornwall that bears his name. The construction project, which opened the Great Lakes to the world, stands today as one of history's most challenging engineering feats. Since 1959, the Seaway has handled well over $500 billion worth of cargo. Tomorrow, the eastbound Gordon C. Leach will unload her grain, load up again with iron ore, and turn round for the great big Seaway journey that in the 1950s was just a dream.